Moses' encounter with God is summarized in less than one chapter of Scripture. The process of talking to God and making it real, going on to discussions with his father-in-law, his wife, and his brother and the elders, well, that took more than a chapter of Scripture to describe. But this final tab is talking about living out what God is calling us to do. And that is the place where we're going to be spending a whole bunch of our time if we are truly walking together with God. There were chapter after chapter after chapter describing what Moses did next. Because you see, Moses did go and return to Egypt as God had told him to. He didn't die right away. The Pharaoh who wanted him dead was already passed away, and his son was now on the throne. Moses went to Pharaoh just as God told him to, and told Pharaoh, "Let my people go, so that they can worship me on the mountain, a 3-day journey into the wilderness." Pharaoh would not let that happen, and you probably know the rest of the story. Confrontation after confrontation had to happen. Miracle after miracle, plague after plague came down upon Pharaoh and Egyptians until finally they reached the point where they would let God's people go. Even then, when they were escaping from Egypt, the Pharaoh changed his mind and came back after them. Every one of those discussions, every one of those confrontations, every one of those steps in the process was a time, a moment where Moses chose to live out God's call on his life. This tab in your path book is there to encourage you to do the same. You've already heard what God had to say. You've worked through the process of trusting God at His Word. And now you're going to move forward and live out what God said. There are places in there to encourage you to memorize Scripture so that God will bring those Scriptures up to mind at that very moment that you need it, in the middle of that conversation that you're having with somebody. There are going to be tools there to give you action steps to go along with the things that we encountered in worship and then we wrestled with to make it real in our lives. As we memorize those Scriptures, live out those action steps, and future tools will give us things to live out our faith in teams, in ministries. This tab will be the place where we know that we are doing what God called us to do. Encounter God, make it real, live it out. Each one of those components you will find will help you to take one step in your walk together with God.